Government has welcomed Moody's decision to upgrade South Africa's credit outlook from negative to stable. Moody says that the key driver behind the decision is the improved fiscal outlook that raises the likelihood of government's debt burden stabilizing over the medium term. To discuss this and more, I'm joined by independent economist Professor Bonke Dumisa. Thank you very much for your time, Prof. And maybe just start with your observation on the way that South Africa has been able to stabilize debt. Are you satisfied that they've done enough in the short period of time that we've seen since about 2018 or so when the new leadership came into power?
I can positively say I am satisfied, and you know that many a times I sound like I'm very insensitive when people demand this and that, and I say the government is right in saying no, we cannot afford it. It is precisely because of that fiscal discipline that the South African government has been able to stabilize the economic environment, despite and in spite of being highly criticized by different constituencies for that. We do need fiscal discipline if ever things are to stabilize in South Africa.
Prof, while I ask you this next question, can I just ask that you adjust your device? There's too much space above your head. But while you do that, perhaps give us details on what this... That's probably fine, yes, thank you. What does this do for the investment climate in South Africa? Currently, South Africa is garnering investments far below what is required compared to our current GDP. So the stable outlook obviously means that South Africa is actually moving towards becoming a conducive environment.
Yes, and that's why many of us really applaud this decision by Moody's. And I must stress that Moody's has always been the most positive of the three top international credit rating agencies. They were the last to downgrade us to child status on the 27th of March 2020. And now when they move us to stable, it assures the world that, well, it's because South African bonds are somehow regarded as junk as it is now, even though international investors are buying them a lot. So when you say the environment is stable and Moody says all these positive things, then the international investors, even the most negative ones, will now say, yes, maybe let's go back to those South African bonds and invest in South Africa in the green fields. In that way, it will strengthen the rand, and it will actually help us to be able to generate even more revenues, just like we did in tax year 2021-22, where the South African Revenue Services it overshot it by 300 billion over their target of 1.21. So we need more good news like that. I'm tired of talking about negative things negative things happening in South Africa.
No, absolutely. And as you say that, I was actually going to pick on a negative aspect on our country's economic standing. And this is the structural reforms, which continue to be of great concern to various stakeholders, Prof. The pace in which we initiate structural reforms has been slow. But positively, I suppose we are seeing the spectrum auction coming into play, alternative power sources, and contracts being signed there. Your thoughts on structural reforms and the pace that we're seeing?
Unfortunately, the pace cannot be faster than it is. Now, we must remember we're operating from a very low base. Even though South Africa is economically successful compared to most countries in our continent, but we are punching above our weight. And because of that, you find then that some of the things people want to see happening today cannot be done today because the revenues we have, even though we're happy that they overshot the target last year, but the target last year was actually low. We want to go to levels far earlier than 2020 when COVID hit us, and we are not yet there. and we need to do better. So, as the Minister of COCTA said that we may see the COVID restrictions being lifted this week or next week. Let's hope that happens, because the South African business has been suffering for a long time, and many people realize that they just blame the government for those problems.
Now, as we look forward to that increased investment landscape that is probably going to come behind the stable outlook by Moody's, where should government be positioning that investment in terms of sectors that are likely to not only grow the economy, Prof, but create jobs that we desperately need?
Unfortunately, I wish I can just endorse what you are saying, that the government must focus on the job-creating sectors for it to be able to increase the number of people who are employed. But at this particular point in time, where we want to see, I use the word greenfields, which refers to when companies invest in a country and it's going to be fixed investments over a long time. Under those circumstances, those companies want to be sure then that there will be stability in all fronts. And unfortunately, on the labor front, I cannot say that, and it does raise some concerns with potential investors.
No, absolutely. Professor Bonke Dumisa, independent economist, thank you very much for your time this morning, talking us through the latest announcement by Moody's, keeping us below investment grade, but taking us from negative and giving us a stable outlook, saying that the government has done a decent job in stabilizing the country's debt.